to change the name or to leave it the same? That is the question.
And if we do nothing, are we perpetuating the historical racism of our divided past?
The American Religious Town Hall is now in session.
Welcome, friends, to the American Religious Town Hall meeting, where the discussion of religious, political, and social issues is meant to promote the cause of religious freedom and to help us better understand each other. And now, here's your host and moderator, Pastor Jerry Lutz.
Welcome to the American Religious Town Hall. We're meeting during the COVID, and so we have a certain less panelists. We've spread out a little bit. I'm James Weingardner sitting in for Pastor Lutz, and we have four great panelists who are going to talk about our subject today, and we'd like them to introduce themselves to you, and we're going to start on my right.
My name is Bishop Michael Olson, and I am the Bishop of the Roman Catholic Diocese of Fort Worth, Texas.
My name is Canon John Peterson. I am an Episcopal priest, canonically resident in the Diocese of Washington, D.C.
Hi, I'm Tom Plumley. I'm a minister in the Christian Church Disciples of Christ. I serve as senior minister at First Christian Church in downtown Fort Worth, Texas.
Hi, I'm Carl Trovall, professor of ethics and history at Concordia University in Austin, Texas.
We're so glad that you're with us and that this group is convened to talk about this subject, and it's a very important civil rights subject, so let's get with it. The Edmond Pettus Bridge, located in Selma, Alabama, is named after a Confederate general and leader of the Ku Klux Klan. An online petition to change the name has generated over 400,000 signatures. The bridge must be renamed. Name it John Lewis Memorial Bridge. On March 7th, 1965, a 14-year-old girl named Linda Lowry was among hundreds of civil rights marchers who were beaten. Ms. Lowry received 7 stitches over her right eye and 28 stitches on the back of her head. The Edmond Pettus Bridge must never be remained. It is a symbolic reminder of just how far we have come. I left my blood and tears in the cement of that bridge, she said. So did John Lewis. So did a lot of other people. If we're going to try to fix things that are broken, then fix the things that are broken. The death of John Lewis, civil rights icon this last July 2020, brought the new attention to the efforts to rename the Selma Bridge that was the stage for a terrifying turning point in the civil rights movement. But leaders of those efforts have stressed that any decision to rename the Edmond Pettus Bridge, named for a Confederate general, need to be left to the people of Selma. We're working with the community on the ground to foster discussion, said Michael Starr Hopkins, a political consultant who organized a recent petition drive to place Lewis' name on the bridge. At the end of the day, this effort has to be led by people on the ground. Calls to rename the bridge have echoed for many years. In 2015, the Alabama Senate approved a resolution from then Senator Hank Sanders, a Democrat of Selma, calling for the bridge to be renamed the Journey to Freedom Bridge. The House did not take up the measure. The calls became stronger following the killing of George Floyd by Minneapolis police officers in late May, a death that led to widespread discussion of systemic racism and renewed efforts to be taken down the monuments of the Confederacy. A racist government. From the strict legal standpoint, renaming the bridge would be difficult. In 2017, the Alabama legislature passed the Alabama Memorial Preservation Act, which makes it all but impossible for local governments to rename, alter, or remove monuments or other memorial structures 40 years old or older. The legislature would have to repeal the law or pass a separate bill addressing the name of the bridge. But in Selma, whose population is 82% black, renaming the bridge has long been a divisive idea. Some believe its civil rights legacy overshadows any honors intended for Pettus. What they exemplified for us was the system needed to be changed more than the symbols needed to be changed. To be bogged down in a conversation about symbols is to miss the entire structure and struggle for which they fought. I would like the panelists to discuss the following. Number one, do you agree with those who believe the name must be changed now? And why or why not? And two, do you believe the name must remain the same as a symbolic and historical signpost indicating corrective work that still must be done? And three, what changes do we need to consider in light of the divisive times we now find ourselves living? Well, those are interesting questions, and let's begin with John Peterson.
Well, that is indeed the question. This is a very timely subject, obviously, and one that I must say, as a result of reading this moderator's statement, as well as taking time to study and read it in preparation for this program, I must say at the outset I've changed my mind in relationship to what should be done. And it's because of this 14-year-old girl who was beaten that day on the bridge, Linda Laurie, by the Alabama State Troopers. For that matter, my natural instinct is to remove all Confederate statutes. But Linda has put a different perspective on that argument and certainly on the situation. I have listened to Linda's interview a couple months ago in last August, 3 or 4 times on the radio station WBUR, which is a public radio station in Boston, which aired her interview. In her interview, she argued against changing the name of the bridge, and she argued because it would whitewash our history. Because it would whitewash our history. She maintains that the demonstrations on March 7th, 1965, really took the sting, and this are her words, really took the sting out of that Pettus name. Took the sting out of that name. As the moderator said in his opening statement, Laurie said in her interview, our blood, sweat, and tears are embedded in the cement of that bridge. The question that we have to ask, of course, is what is the best way to be able to honor the late John Lewis? And Linda responded by saying, the best way to honor him is by changing the name of the Voting Rights Act in 1965 to be in his honor. So, she is arguing that the name of the bridge should not be changed, and that was the question that we were to discuss.
Very good. Thank you, Michael Olson.
When I hear the name Edmund Pettus Bridge, I don't think of Edmund Pettus. I think of the Voting Rights Act, and I think of the Civil Rights Movement. And I'm not sure how Edmund Pettus would feel about that, but given his life track and the views he espoused, I suspect he wouldn't be appreciative of that. I think that healing comes from exposure to sunlight, and to change a name retroactively like that without addressing the story and why we've moved and how we've moved and continue to move from that time, I think it would just simply doom us to repeat the failures of the past. I think that renaming it, in a sense, is fosters our forgetting what went on there. And I think that if we don't remember the past, or if we choose to forget it, we are going to make an even more violent society with even more bigotry and more resentment. I think healing comes from within, more, and cure comes from outside, along with treatment. And I think what we're in need of is a healing of the past, and I think a full exposure to the sunlight and the full story, which is now itself a part of history, is required for us to move forward and to be grateful for how we've come here.
Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you. Bishop Olson, I really appreciate your thoughts on that. I come from the position that I think this is this is a deflection. This is deflecting from the real issue. As the moderator's statement said in a couple of different places, we got to fix the things that are broken, and the bridge isn't broken. It's the things about which the marchers were marching that are still broken. And those are the things that we need to address and not waste time and energy on this. That said, I think this is different from the issue of Confederate statues and Confederate memorials. I, like Bishop Olson, when I think of the Edmond Pettus Bridge, I don't think of Edmond Pettus. I have no idea, until I researched it, had no idea who the guy even was. He could have been the highway commissioner of the state of Alabama for some time, or the founder of Selma. I don't know. For all that's worth, what I think of when I think of the Edmond Pettus Bridge is the film footage of police dogs attacking little children, and this wave of police officers moving through people who were peacefully protesting, and people being beaten. And I think of the way that bridge and that film became, if not the turning point, certainly a turning point in the civil rights movement of the 1960s. So, if somebody wants to change the name, that's okay with me. I do think it would be a loss, however. I think we would be at a loss for it, because everyone explaining, you can imagine being a person leading a tour of civil rights sites in the South, taking your college class through there. The first thing you would say when you came to that bridge was, well, this used to be called and we all remember this bridge because of this horrible scene, which is caught on this film. Let me show you this film. That's what needs to be remembered. That's what needs to be memorialized. Yes, John Lewis can be memorialized in a lot of different places. And yes, there were a bunch of other people that got beaten on that bridge as well. It would not be wrong to name the bridge after him or after any of those people, or to name it, the Freedom Bridge, or the Civil Rights Bridge, or the historic Selma Bridge. All those are, I think, ideas that have been thrown out there. But the important thing is to remember that film of what was going on, the water hoses and the police dogs.
Sure. Carl?
I wasn't sure what I thought when I was reading this, and I really had come to the show not really knowing what I was thinking about it. I tend to be against Confederate statues still standing, so I thought, I think I'd be in favor of the change. But after the three of you spoke, and I thought about my own historical background and thinking, well, one of the things you want anything that's of historical significance to do is to tell a story, which, you've all discussed this. What is the narrative arc? The narrative arc of Confederate statues is to reestablish white supremacy years after the Civil War ended. The Edmond Pettus Bridge it was named that's true, but its historical significance, you're right, it would be an unknown bridge to any of us except for this moment in civil rights history, and it seems that that's the critical historical arc that needs to be retained here, at least as I see it.
May I say something else? I think if the march had not happened, and the fire hoses and the police dogs and the film and all of that had not happened, and Selma had not been the center for what it became, or known for what it became known for, it might be appropriate for Selma to change the name of that bridge because just because of the need to no longer memorialize people like that. But that bridge has become something different now because of that day and what happened there.
Michael?
I'm
sorry. John.
Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead now.
It's only going to be changed if the people of Selma want it to be changed. That's the way that it is and right now. Maybe this is a little bit light, but one of the things that is being pointed out that 41% of the residents of Selma live in poverty. And one of the concerns that they have in Selma is that if the name of the bridge is changed, tourists are going to stop coming there because people want to be able to come to be able to be at that bridge. And it's an economic factor for the people simply because they need that people to come to be able to relive that experience. And if the name of the bridge is changed, that's one of the concerns that they have. Because it is a tourist attraction, and it would have a very downward economic impact on the town that is already in economic difficulty. So besides all the good, lofty ideas that we've had, there's also the economics that really plays an important role for the people in Selma today.
Carl, you were going to say?
I just remember the first time I went to the Texas Capitol. I'm from Minnesota, I'm from the Midwest, and I remember going to the Texas Capitol and walking around looking at the different plaques. And I remember behind one of the stairways was a plaque, and it was kind of honoring the Confederacy and some of the women who played a role in the Confederacy. And I do have to say that was quite a teachable moment for myself because it was a concrete, like, this really happened. Like, I didn't just read this in my history book. And it was way behind the stairs and all of that. I was just poking around trying to read all the plaques. But there is, I will say that for certain historical objects like that, I think that their presence there really communicates something. And as long as it isn't, you have to be careful about the honoring something that you don't want honored. But.
I think you win the Geek Award today. Go ahead, John.
I don't think, just by remembering something, I don't think we're necessarily honoring it.
No, that's true.
I think if we forget our failures and the depths of our failures, we're going to forget our achievements, and I think that in itself is a benchmark that we need. Yeah. And if we forget our failures, we're going to repeat them or make them even worse. The past we tear down, it could be nothing in comparison to the future that we're building. And I think that's...
And it's interesting that John Lewis himself did not want the bridge named after him. He did not feel that was appropriate. And one of the reasons is because there are so many people, like you said, Tom, so many other people that lost their lives and were bit by dogs and everything else that day.
But also the fact, I think, that we cannot also neglect the achievements that have been made in 50 years. During all of this civil unrest, how many black mayors have we seen? How many black police chiefs? How many African-American police officers and first responders are there who are exercising their voice? Congressmen on all sides of the issue. That would not have happened without the change of the civil rights movement. Now, is it enough? No, but yes. But it's certainly progress.
Yeah, absolutely.
And interesting how mayors and police chiefs can be African-American police chiefs of towns and cities that are named after Confederate War heroes. An interesting conundrum. Okay, this is a great discussion. We have a little bit more to go right after this break.
We hope you are enjoying today's program. If you would like to learn more about the American Religious Town Hall, please visit our website at americanreligious.org. That's americanreligious.org. There you can read about the mission and history of the program, learn about the Town Hall estates, and view past programs by clicking the appropriate menu buttons. Each week, Pastor Lutz looks forward to receiving your letters. You may write to him at the address shown on your screen. Send your letters to Pastor Jerry Lutz, American Religious Town Hall Meeting, P.O. Box 180118, Dallas, Texas 75218. That's Pastor Jerry Lutz, American Religious Town Hall Meeting, P.O. Box 180118, Dallas, Texas 75218. Thank you for writing, and thank you for watching. And now, back to you and today's closing statements.
Welcome back. We are interested in your thoughts, your contributions. Please note the address that was just given and write to Pastor Lutz and let us know not only what you think about the past programs or this program, but also ideas that you have for future programs. This is a real mind trust of great religious leaders in our country, and we would love to hear their thoughts on any subject of interest to you as well. So let's do that. And now to our summations, and we begin again to my right, Michael Olson.
Thank you. The Greek word for truth is aletheia, and aletheia is literally translated as not forgetting. More than remembering, it means not forgetting. There's part of our human condition that we want to forget things of the past, but the truth requires us to not forget. John L. Lewis on this issue said, keeping the name of the Edmond Pettus Bridge is not an endorsement of the man who bears its name, but rather an acknowledgement that the name of the bridge today is synonymous with the voting rights movement, which changed the face of this nation and of the world.
Thank you, Michael. Tom?
Thank you. I believe that there are so many things that need to be done in the area of civil rights today, so many changes that need to be made, so many proposals that need to be thought through together in the great conversation of democracy and enacted, that to spend time arguing about the name of a bridge really is obfuscation. It is deflection of the greater conversation that we need to have about what should be happening in Selma, Alabama today, about changing the system that sparked the original march and is still alive today, and the system that protected the authorities who are seen in the film attacking the peaceful protesters. There is much about what was going on in Selma that day that is still going on, and progress, though we've made some, does not need to overshadow the fact that change still needs to come. So we do not need to spend our time arguing about the name of a bridge.
Thank you, Tom.
Tom, I agree with that sentiment. Well, I agree with the call to action. I completely agree that that's the critical piece. But I think that the discussion is really important for us to work through because I don't think that we know how to talk about history in our culture. I don't think that we know how to talk about the significance of historical places, what they mean, the remembering, the truth, all of that. And this seems to me to be one of these opportunities that's an educational moment. Honestly, I think I'm going to be using this in my class to have a discussion, because I think it's not a Confederate statue. It's a safe enough moment, a safe enough kind of discussion that maybe we can begin to approach some of these historical questions. So I even think that that's valuable, along with, but the call to action is where that's the meat.
Thank you, Carl. John?
the bishop read a very erudite statement from John Lewis in his closing summary, final summary. I'm going to be reading one from Linda Lowry's sister, Joanne Bland, which isn't quite so erudite, but it certainly puts it, the situation very much in front of us. Joanne Bland recently said, "I think white people should just shut up about the bridge." Is that clear? Mm-hmm. She doubts if any change will happen quickly, but then she continues, "That's okay, given that there's something delicious in how the name of a white supremacist has come to symbolize freedom for the black people, who still cross the old bridge each year to commemorate the events of 1965. And then in response to one of the questions that you asked, Michael, what happened on the bridge changed the whole meaning of the Edmond Pettus Bridge, of Edmond Pettus to me. And Bland said, I bet he, Pettus, is rolling in his grave every time we walk across that bridge.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Yes, we have a history, both good and bad. And those histories, as I think Carl, as a history teacher and resident geek, has given us, need to be learned from and not forgotten. And that's exactly where these kind of teachable moments come in. I have lived in at least 3 towns that were named after Confederate soldiers or generals or whatever they call them, and haven't known that. We should know that. Maybe we change them, maybe we don't, but maybe we should at least know that. Mm-hmm. And then we can respond to our history with remembrance. The charter of the American Religious Town Hall provides that Roman Catholics, Protestants, Jews, educators, and others may appear on this program and declare their beliefs without hesitancy. And the rest of the members of the panel will uphold and guarantee that American right to all who will appear, irrespective of race or creed, so that the rest of the world can see that here in America, we believe in civil and religious freedom, not only in theory, but in reality. And now, friends, until next week at the same time and over the very same channel, the American Religious Town Hall meeting stands adjourned. May the God of all of us bless all of you.